Welcome to the Scale Model Club, and on this week's show, hello, welcome to the Scale Model Club. And on this week's show, as you've seen, the C47 Skytrain. Thanks everybody for watching. Hopefully you'll enjoy this a little bit better because I have a new microphone. Woohoo! So this is Airfix's 1/72nd scale C47 Skytrain. Sat and watched Band of Brothers and thought, oh, I've got one of those in my collection. Let's build that one. It's taken a while, because I did run out of faith about halfway through it. But anyway, so I'm not going to do so much on the build. Build was fine, everything went together okay, few little problems, but it wasn't bad at all. This is where I've already built the cockpit, and this is just adding a few little bits inside, like the seats and things inside the aircraft. Once I've got the flooring in and the cockpit in, we'll give this a nice paint. Now I painted this with the MIG Ammo's British Cockpit Green, and as you can see I'm going to weather it a little bit with this dark weathering solution, which is also from the same kit. I think it's a MIG Ammo kit. So you just paint on the wash, let it go where it likes to go, and then you get yourself a little earbud, give it a bit of a wipe, and you get rid of a lot of the excess, and it all sits in all the recesses and makes it look really dirty and grubby. Once I'd done that, I then painted the leather on the seats with a brown and touched up a few other little bits with some black in the cockpit, just to make it look a little bit better than it was. But to be fair, you don't see much, but I just wanted some nice seats, and this is where I fitted the decal for the dashboard. So the decal, I'll tell you a bit more about putting the decals on when I put the main ones on later on, but basically you cut your decal off your decal sheet and then you put it in some warm water, and then just before you let it sit there for about 10-15 seconds and it will come loose, it will come away from the backing. You just slide it off the backing onto where you want it. I have got some Mark Fit which I usually put on beforehand, which helps you move it around. I normally only do that with the bigger decals, but I'll talk more about that later on. So that's the main floor and the dashboard and the cockpit. Not going to put any people in it because I'm going to have it sat on the ground, because you have the option of having the doors open. I did toy with the idea of having it in the air, having a little door open and some paratroopers jumping out of it, but like I said, I must admit it was quite a big model for me. I don't normally build stuff this big, and I did sort of lose a bit of interest about halfway through, which is why the video's taken so long. It sat on the bench unpainted for a couple of weeks. So that's both sides done exactly the same. We'll fit the fuselage together now, and I used the Tamiya extra thin glue to glue the two sides together, and then what I really should have done is taped them together, but I used pegs again. I do like the peg, but I must admit I'd have been better off with tape on this occasion, but you live and learn, don't you? So we've got I've got the two sides married up. Run the glue down the edge, and then I will use the little clamps to clamp it all together and hold it all together. I did try some metal clamps, which I'd had before from an Airfix, like a back of tools, but I never seem to be able to get them to work. They're either too hard, so you do them up a bit like a G-clamp, and they either squish the plastic out of shape, or you can crack the plastic, or you don't do them up tight enough at all and it just falls off. So we hold it together, do a bit of a time. I was having a bit of a struggle with the, I think it's an old glue, so the actual paintbrush on the end of the lid was a bit, yeah. So I used a paintbrush, old paintbrush, and then just binned it. But yes, that was, so what I did is I glued a little bit and then glued a little bit more, clamped it. These are the clamps I was talking about that didn't really work very well. Like I said, so I gave up, get a peg. So what would have been a lot better, as if a lot of people say in the comments, is if I had actually used a piece of tape, would have been a lot better. But anyway, so I used a peg, bit of glue, another bit of peg, bit of glue, bit of peg. So I sort of glued along and eventually got it all stuck together nicely. These little bits are a little bit on the awkward side. They stick on the side of the fuselage so that you get that nice curve between the fuselage and the wing. And I thought, all these are going to be, they're not going, just not going to fit, are they? What are the chances? And watch this, look, and it literally just slips in. Brilliant. Bit of glue on it, and it'll stay put. And I don't even think I had to fill, I mean, it looks like you've got a bit of a gap there, but I didn't have to fill it with anything. Once I'd got the primer on and everything, you didn't notice it. But yeah, what a brilliant fit. And the other side fitted just as well. As you can see, there is a bit of a line down the centre of it. I did have to fill that with some filler and give it a bit of a sand. I'm not sure I filmed that, but here we have the wings. Cut them off, sand all the little bits off. They just sit nicely on the end there. It's quite nice and easily to, I mean, I didn't do it this way around. It'd be nice and easy because you could put all this together and paint it, and then build the engines, paint the engines and weather them, put the engines on and then the cowling over the top. If you wanted to paint the cowling separate, in the end what I did was I just decided to mask up the engines, but I'll show you that later. So the wing goes on the struts and the supports, and then there's a bit that goes on the bottom, and I use even more pegs to hold them all together. Thanks everybody for watching though. Thanks everybody for staying with the channel, even though I don't release a video every week. It's lovely to listen to all the comments and read all the comments, and make sure you like and subscribe and push that notification button. I still only do this for fun though. So these are the tail fins. They're not tail fins, but you know, the wings that are on the tail. So exactly the same as in, I always cut stuff apart, test fit it together, see how it's going to fit, because there's nothing worse than holding one side, putting the glue on, putting the other side on and realising it doesn't quite fit, or the pins don't line up, and then you get glue all over your fingers, the glue all over your model, and it's just a nightmare. So check they fit first and then stick them together. And once I've got them together, I literally just put another peg on them to hold them together. I'll have to find out the words for these because I don't know them. I think that's an aileron, I'm not 100% sure, but the tail fin. So that's the tail fin on the back, and then I've got to stick the two horizontal tail fins on the back as well. You can have that, the only reason I'm making that look a little bit awkward is you can actually, where Airfix have made it, you can have that tilted at any angle you want. So if you wanted it in particular sat on the deck with it tilted to the far right to make it look like he's just parked it up, then you can do that. And then this is the movable part of the horizontal tail fin, so you can either have those up or down as well. I just chose to have everything flat. So you can, like I say, if you wanted, set that in an up or a down position to make it look like he was playing with his rodders. The only downside from it is if you do want them straight, it's a little bit awkward. So in here are the engines. I cut the engines off, I glued the engines together. I painted those a dark iron colour and then dry brushed them a silver. I then stuck them onto the aircraft and put the cowling over the top of them whilst they were painted. You'll see what I mean in the next. So they've got the cowling on. So the whole thing's built, everything's masked. Like the windows are all masked, and that's about it at the minute. And I've put a piece of foam in the back door because that's quite wide. So this is just literally a grey primer. You can't really tell it's going on because it's almost exactly the same colour as the plane itself. So the underneath I painted, I think it was a ghost grey or a dark barley grey, I can't remember, but it's slightly darker than the undercoat, so which is handy because you can see where it's going. Now once I'd got that on, that was just sprayed on the bottom half, so the bottom half was a little darker. And you can see where that goes on. I had a lot of trouble with the old airbrush this time around because I hadn't used it for a long time. I didn't quite clean it out properly, and a couple of the colours I used were a real nightmare. But that's all self-inflicted. That grey goes on nice though. So once the grey's done, I did top and bottom with that sort of barley grey. Well, I did the sides. I didn't do the wings, but because the grey goes up the side a little bit for when you mask up the bottom half, because the top half's like olive drab. So once I'd got that grey on, I went and did some line painting, so that we had some shading on the lines of the aircraft. Give it that weathered look. Not usually very good at this, and actually it was going really nicely, to be fair, apart from that one. Yeah. It looks messy, but when you get the top coat on or the bottom coat on, you'll see how it all comes together. It does look really nice. So that's the bottom half, and what I ended up doing with the grey after I did this was I painted the grey in between the bits where you got the dark lines. Lovely job that is. And strangely enough, it sat in that state for weeks. So I came back to it. I thought, right, let's get this done. Let's get this off the bench because I've got another one I want to do. So I masked up the undercarriages because they're silver. So I masked up all the silver, painted those a nice aluminium silver. Painted the bottom was also painted grey before I did that, and then I masked all of it up and did the green on the top. And as you can see, as the green goes on, you're left with the black lines just seeping through the green. And what you want to do is I put lots and lots of layers of green on until they're just barely visible, but don't sort of whack a big thick layer on because you'll lose all the work you've done. And you're always better to use lots of coats of light coats than you are one big thick one. And this is Mig Ammo's olive drab. I think it's from an American aircraft set, so seeing as it was an American aircraft, we'll use that. I actually really like this olive drab, and once I'd painted it this colour, I then got my mojo back to sort of to look at the putting the decals on. Then looked in the box and realised that the D-Day stripes aren't a decal, so I was going to have to paint them on, which isn't something I've done before. But I must admit, after doing it, I would quite happily do it again because it was a lot easier than putting a massive decal on. Well, I found it was anyway. I know some of the purists might be a bit angry because they weren't exactly the right width apart and stuff, but I liked the way it was finished, and I don't think they were particularly accurate when they were painted on in the first place. Need to get myself a spray booth next, I think. So that's the olive drab done, and this is the D-Day stripes. So I masked them up roughly, and away you go with the painting. I put I put the white on like that, and you can see where the panel lines are. So I left it just slightly showing through. Although I know when you turn the camera, it looks like it's covered, but obviously you always had to do the underneath. So that's the white done. Let that dry, and then masked up for the black stripes. This is Tamiya masking tape, by the way, that I used. The 6mm wide Tamiya masking tape, and the other stuff to mask off the rest of the aircraft is just standard masking tape. I just used the Tamiya stuff for fine lining, so you get a nice edge to it. But I had to clean the brush out after that, because as you can see, that it wasn't going on there very nicely at all. There was a few leakers, there was a few little bits where that had bled underneath the masking tape, which was fine because I just then let it all dry off in a couple of days, masked the bits up that are bled, and then repainted them. And it came out quite nicely, I thought. Pop the propellers on, and it's all done. Well, nearly all done. That's the paintwork done. I use super glue to put the propellers on. I don't need them to move, so this is what I was explaining about the decal. So you cut your decal out as close to the decal as you can. I use a set of tweezers that work the wrong way, so when you squeeze them together they open, and when you let go they close. I find them the best things to use because you can grip the decal like that, let's see, and then you can grip the decal like that, and you don't have to worry about it. Next thing, I've got a little tiny pot, and in there is literally just warm water, but I would use warm water because it speeds up the process a little bit. You soak it in the warm water, I'll leave this in real time. I won't cut this. This is actually as it happens. So I'll get myself a cotton bud and then realise it slides around. Not quite. So I'll give it a little bit of a tester. If it doesn't slide, put it back in the water. Keep it in the water until it does slide about. There you go, see it sliding on the paper. So the next thing is to put some Mark Fit, which is a setting solution, on the actual aircraft. And you put the decal on the aircraft and it sinks into all the little recesses, and you can move it around while it's drying. There'll be some photos at the end of this video so you can look through, see what the finished video's like, what the finished aircraft's like. But thanks very much for watching. Sorry it took so long, and I hope the sound on this mic is a lot better. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.